Good evening and welcome to the Pittsburgh City Council's public hearing for Tuesday, June 28th, 2022, relative to Bill 2022-0437. Madam Clerk, please read the purpose.
Bill 437, resolution adopting the reapportionment plan for the city council districts in the city of Pittsburgh as set forth in the final report of the Reapportionment Advisory Committee.
Thank you. And before we begin, I want to mention that we are joined by Councilwoman Krause and Councilwoman Erica Strasburger and Councilman Laval I see online. Is there anyone else, Madam Clerk? Councilman Wilson and Councilman Krause are also online, joining us online. With that said, we'll begin with our first registered speaker, Amy Teresa Compertor.
Thank you, Council. May it please the Council. I belong 601 Presley Street, 15212. I would ask the Council to, when you are considering the reapportionment plan, I haven't been able to look over it entirely in all detail, but that you consider the residents and how the poor and those of us who can't afford much, that don't have the ability to drive, whether due to disability, whether due to life conditions, whether due to financial conditions, that we are reliant upon what we can walk to, what we can take transit to, and usually those facilities that we rely on are very close and near to us in distance. And when those things are taken from us, just as transit has been over the past year to two or so, I've lost track. Because that also affects us. And we don't realize that affects us as a city as well, because where people go is where they spend their money. And I hope that the reapportionment plan can take that into account. I also hope it can take into account what better housing features can actually help the city with, such as the GNC building I've mentioned before here, that it is going to be made, instead of for business, it's going to be into housing that probably is not going to be for, I would say, Section 8 or Housing Authority, City of Pittsburgh, or people that really could actually use the assistance, like myself, of being close to the city and being closer to the resources that we need. That's one reason why I moved close to the city. I moved to Presley not because of the wonderful building it is. I moved to Presley because it was 5 blocks from my hospital, and people said, "Do you really want to go there every single time I went to the Housing Authority?" And I'm like, well, yeah, because I had a walker, a rollator walker, and I could, at the very least, get the bus and, go up and get dropped off, or walk straight up. I have a giant eagle right next to me, and I wanted those are the kind of dynamics I wish for you to consider when considering the reapportionment plan for the city, is not just how your average person who works gets around, but also those who have accessibility issues and poverty issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next registered speaker is John Rhodes. John Rhodes, he is online, joining us online.
Yes, I'm here.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is John Rhodes. I live at 3030 Regan Street in Polish Hill. Members of City Council, I'm speaking today as a board member and representative of the Polish Hill Civic Association, the RCO for the neighborhood. My comments are taken entirely from the formal objection letter we submitted to the Reapportionment Committee back in May. That letter was signed on to you by our sister community benefit organizations, Bloomfield Development Corporation, and Lawrenceville United and Lawrenceville Corporation. The PHCA board and membership will review the impact that the proposed new district boundary lines would have on us. And we hope you will reconsider the small component of the map that affects our neighborhood. We want to emphasize that no matter what the final map looks like, we know Polish Hill will be represented by 1 or 2 dedicated city council members who work diligently to improve the lives of their constituents. The objections we raised today are only in response to the concerns we have about the reapportionment process. The first issue I want to discuss is how oddly shaped District 1 becomes by including Polish Hill. As you know, the rules state district lines must be compact to the greatest extent practicable. We believe that anyone viewing District 1's proposed boundaries would consider the inclusion of the portion of Polish Hill drawn in to look anything but compact. According to the Day's redistricting website, we found that District 1's compactness scores would all improve if precincts 6-4 and 6-5 were not tacked on so strangely. District 1's RIO score would increase by 16% or double up its normalized rating, and both its Polsby Popper and Nobel UC scores would go up as well. Another guideline to redistricting that I'm sure you're aware of is that the goal is to keep neighborhoods intact to the greatest extent practicable. However, the new proposed map splits Polish Hill in two, dividing us along the MLK East Busway. We would hope our small neighborhood would be contained within one single city council district so we could use our limited volunteer hours liaising the city council as efficiently as possible. We would also like to highlight the fact that ever since Pittsburgh transitioned to electing its city council-wide districts in 1989, Polish Hill has always been included in District 7 with our adjacent neighborhoods of Bloomfield and Lawrenceville. Even then, the neighborhoods were indelibly tied together, as can be seen in a February 6, 1989 issue of the Pittsburgh Press, which talked about the shared issues facing, quote, the traditional blue-collar areas of District 7, covering Lawrenceville, Polish Hill, Garfield, and part of Bloomfield. These neighborhoods have faced similar kinds of changes from unemployment and blight at that time to gentrification and displacement now. District 1 is clearly a district that predominantly represents the north side. We have great friends in the north side, but we obviously are not in the north side neighborhood, and we fear our neighborhood would lose much of its voice if we were broken away from communities that share our interests and become part of a district that is almost entirely comprised of north side neighborhoods that have vital but different interests than our own. For all the reasons above, the board recommended to the full membership, and they voted unanimously to accept that City Council reconsider how it recommends incorporating Polish Hill in its proposed map. We ask that 1, they draw the whole neighborhood into a single district by keeping 6-1, 6-4, and 6-5 together, and keep Polish Hill in the same district as the adjacent neighborhoods of Lawrenceville and Bloomfield, who have been lumped.
Thank you. And our next speaker is Catherine Anderson.
Hi, my name is Catherine Anderson. I live at 3717 Millwood Avenue in Polish Hill. I'm here because first of all, I really like our council people. I really like our council person and her office, Deb Krause, people that she works with. It can be, as I think all of us know, really challenging to develop relationships with politicians, local politicians included, and hard to trust and hard to have deliverables, hard to see deliverables from local politics. But we have really grown a relationship with our council person and with her office. I'm a co-founder of the community farm. We grow food for Jubilee Food Pantry. We have put a lot of time into our farm. We produce a lot of food every year to go to the food pantry. We have gotten immense support from Deb Gross's office. The only reason we're able to run it is because of their financial support. They'll come to our work days. They'll come to our work days for other community gardening projects that we have. They make it very clear that they're available and here to support us. I think my concern is that if we just pull away from the numbers, we're negating the relational aspect of politics that we really need to be focusing on. We need to be focusing on keeping people in their districts so we can build relationships and trust. And yeah, I just think that it's really hard to trust politicians. It's really important to be able to know that I could just email tomorrow Kelsey or Deb or James, and I know that they would get back to me, and I know that they would care about what I was saying, and that's pretty rare, and I feel worried about losing that, and I feel worried about the fact that it doesn't seem like a lot of our voices are being heard in this process, and I just really want people to consider that. And with that, I'm finished.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. And our next registered speaker is Lizzie Anderson.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. Can you hear me?
Yes, please begin. Just state your name and neighborhood for the record.
Lizzie Anderson. I am also at 3717 Melwood Avenue in Polish Hill. And thank you for being here. Everyone who's giving their statements. I am on the PHCA board with John, and I don't know if I can actually add that much more to what was shared by John via the letter that we as a board wrote. I just wanted to be here to support are staying in District 7, both for the very practical reasons that John outlined, as well as the relational reasons that Catherine just outlined. And I'm really hoping that the council sees our passion and dedication towards that and keeps us in District 7. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, and then we have Elizabeth Feen. Fine.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Fine. I live at 3539 Beethoven Street in Polish Hill. And like the others who have spoken, I am here to express concern to oppose the division of Polish Hill into multiple districts. Part of why I wanted to move to the neighborhood and love living there so much is because it is a close-knit and collaborative neighborhood. We work together on a number of projects ranging from the community gardens that have already been mentioned to issues around public transit, around affordable housing, a number of issues. And we work closely both with our councilperson's office and with our neighboring communities, Lawrenceville, Bloomfield. So I would really like to see that cohesiveness be maintained. And so I encourage you to keep these districts compact and keep the neighborhoods intact rather than splitting Polish Hill into multiple districts in the reapportionment plan. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. And Talon Smith? Do you have an older version? I apologize. If you would like to make sure that we receive your comments, please submit them to the clerk's office. Madam Clerk?
City Clerk's office at pittsburghpa.gov. I drew a blank.
I'm sorry.
City Clerk's office at pittsburghpa.gov.
And I'll also add that we also have time for public comment tomorrow, too, if you wanted to take time overnight to change and update your Zoom account. You can speak tomorrow before a 10 a.m. meeting to give your comments as well. And I apologize for the inconvenience today. And Augustine Punta?
Hello?
Hi, please.
Hi, my name is Augustine Pianotti.
Augustine,
I
you
live at
told me.
3507 Bigelow Boulevard. I'm volunteer coordinator with the Polish Hill Green Team, and I just wanted to state that I'm opposed to the redistricting of Polish Hill. We've worked for the last several years to build community gardens with Deb Krause in her office, as well as branching out to other community gardens in Morningside and Lawrenceville. And I think it would be really hard for us to continue the work, not only sharing resources with the city, as well as the other neighborhoods if we were to be moved out of District 7. Thank you.
Thank you. And Jesse Perkins? Jesse Perkins?
Hi there, I'm Jesse Perkins. I live at 414 Taylor Street in Bloomfield. Thanks to the councilors who made the time tonight to listen to the community regarding this issue. Many of Polish Hill's needs are aligned with those of its geographically adjoining neighborhoods. Their efforts to improve green spaces and protect housing affordability in the midst of expanding development have been supported by District 7 for years. Changing Polish Hill's representation risks not only projects that are currently in the process of completion, but future projects that community members and volunteers are counting on to address needs in their community. Surrounding neighborhoods could be negatively impacted too. Having a strong coalition of neighborhoods with unified needs supported by a single council district has been crucial in making progress on a number of projects. Splitting that coalition could jeopardize successful results and outcomes that community leaders have been striving for together for nearly a decade. We finally have something working well here. District 7 is doing a great job meeting and responding to the needs of its neighborhoods and residents. Please don't rip Polish Hill away from the communities around it that have been working so hard to make progress together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that exhausts our list of registered speakers. And do we have anyone in the audience wishing to address City Council? Seeing no one in the audience wishing to address City Council, I'm going to turn it over to council members. And we'll begin with Councilwoman Gross.
Thank you, Madam President. Often at public hearings, we're hearing testimony about ordinance changes, and and we have some liberty to speak. I'm not sure what liberties we have to speak on the topics with redistricting. For example, in zoning situations, it's a little bit more quasi-judicial, and we should have to be careful with our comments. So I'll limit my comments to reiterating what I heard today, which was a resounding turnout from the neighborhood of Polish Hill to stay in District 7. And from looking at the testimony with the public hearings that were held by the redistricting committee itself, that I think Polish Hill was also the #1 turnout and testimony consistently and unanimously, and comments to stay in District 7 and not be moved into District 1, again, for the reasons that we hear here, that the District 1 score would actually improve without Polish Hill, that compactness would improve in scoring with Polish Hill staying in District 7, that it also splits the neighborhood boundaries by moving only precincts 6-4 and 6-5, and that there is the kind of relationships that redistricting or reapportionment is called for to respect, which is the contiguity and friendship relationships, family relationships, small business and resident relationships, community facility and resident relationships that exist with Polish Hill, which is nearly half surrounded by Lawrenceville and Bloomfield. And I know I have constituents who have moved back and forth between the neighborhoods while I've just been in office for the last 8 years. So I just want to thank all of the citizens for coming out tonight and making your voices heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Strasburger, did you want to say anything?
Thank you, Madam President. I will keep it very short. Mostly wanted to thank those who came to speak this evening and those who have come out to speak at previous hearings, and to let you know that I hear your voices and I will take them into consideration in the final vote as I deliberate on this. I also wanted to take the opportunity to thank those who served on the Reapportionment Committee, though many of whom are here this evening. You put countless hours into this process. It seemed like every day there was a beautiful spring day. You were stuck inside at a hearing this spring and even in the winter. So I really want to thank you for the work that you've done. You've done a tremendous job putting a very complete and helpful report together to consider, and that in combination with the public comments we've heard and those that I know that we've heard from the Point Breeze neighborhood as well in the district I currently represent, will play into my final vote on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Are there any members still online? Okay, Councilman Krause.
Thank you, Madam President. Only to thank people for coming out this evening to attend the hearing and to offer their comment. And in keeping with Councilwoman Strasburger, I too would like to thank the enormous amount of work and the enormous number of hours that the Reapportionment Committee invested in their research and their due diligence before submitting the recommendation to the Council for consideration. There have been hours and hours and hours and hours of very thoughtful, careful consideration that has been undertaken by the Reapportionment Committee, and for them to be able to form their suggestion to Council. And I appreciate their time and their effort. And those are my comments, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. And I'm not sure if Councilman Wilson is online if he wants to speak.
Yes, Madam President. Thank you to all the speakers, and also, I'll just echo those comments as well to everyone who served on the Reapportionment Committee. Looking forward to talking about this at the Council table. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Councilman. And I want to thank the Reapportionment Committee. Do you want to come to the mic and just at least introduce yourself for the public so they can, come on. You've put a lot of time and a lot of work. I want people to know who you are. I want them to know who to blame. No, just kidding. No, just kidding. Thank you all very much for the time you put in.
Thank you, Madam President. My name is Jonathan Alexander, and I am from Sheridan and serve for District 2.
Thank you.
Dan Wood, I live in Marshall Shadeland, and I serve for District 6.
James Murray, I live in Bloomfield, and I serve District 7.
Bob Charland, I live in Southside, and I serve District 3.
Skylar Schaefer, I live in Marshall Shadeland, and I serve District 1.
Sean Carter, I work for Councilman Burgess, and I represented District 9.
I mean, that's mandatory. Okay, now I want to thank you all, and I also want to thank our clerk's office, who has been amazing through this process, helping, making sure that they had everything they needed. I want to thank the law department, and I believe was it city planning who was also involved. INP. I just want to make sure I thank all the right people.
Should we acknowledge the redistricting committee members who aren't in attendance as
Yes,
well?
yes.
Oh,
Can we just mention Giovanni's name? Use the mic, please. Yeah, could you make sure you mention it? But your mic is off. Thanks.
Giovanni in the INP department.
Yeah. Do you know who was from the law?
Jesse Exelis from the law department.
Yeah, so we just want to make sure we thank them. Councilwoman, do you know the others that were on?
And Blake, what's Blake's, how do we say Blake's last name? Platchvik from Sir District 4, and
Emily Yonan from District 8.
District 8. Did we miss any district?
Matt Singer, District 5.
Thank you.
And Matt Singer, District 5. Okay. Thank you to all of those who served on the committee, those who helped aid the committee, and thank you to the public for their coming out and taking the time to make comment and to send emails and to make council aware of your comments and your opinions. With that said, we'll probably have this up for discussion next week. Is that timing? Could you talk timing, Madam Clerk, so the public knows?
So council have to have a final vote prior to your recess, which begins on July 19th. So today being the 28th, if you're putting it up for discussion on Wednesday, the 6th, I guess you would definitely need to have it out of committee before and on the agenda before the 18th.
Okay, so if we discuss it next week, does that give us enough time?
Yes, if you discuss it next
week. Or should we put it up tomorrow?
No, you'll have time next week if you put it on the agenda next week.
Okay. So I just want to make sure time-wise we're good. Okay, with that said, can I have so it'll be up for next week's discussion. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
And do you want to make a second? No, just kidding. Thank you. This hearing's adjourned. Thank you, everyone.